One killed in Yau Ma Tei fire, but newly replaced mesh may have saved lives. U.S. Navy chief says arms sales to Taiwan suspended. Washington Democrats say Republicans in disarray over funding for White House ballroom. Good evening and thank you for joining us. One person died and 4 others were injured after a fire broke out at a subdivided flat in Yau Ma Tei. The Fire Services Department initially believes there are no suspicious circumstances in this case, adding that the building's fire alarm system is fully operational. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Fire began at around 11 p.m. on Thursday at Manyun Building, where there was a bright blaze at a unit on the 13th floor of the residential structure. Fire services personnel deployed to the rescue assisted some 300 residents to evacuate, with some of the elderly required to wear oxygen masks. Several people had to be carried by firefighters before being placed on stretchers. A local resident said he lives right above the unit where the fire started, noting that large amounts of smoke blew inside his apartment once he opened his window and he knew he had to escape. This woman said she was worried the fire would burn upwards and affect her unit on the 15th floor, adding that she was shaking throughout the ordeal. The blaze was put out at around midnight, with fire services personnel subsequently discovering a charred body of a 69-year-old man inside the apartment where the fire started. The man reportedly had trouble moving on his own. His female partner of 30 years was at a restaurant at the start of the incident. She said she was unable to save him and suffered burns herself, adding that she saw him rolling on the floor and couldn't drag him out of the apartment. The woman believes the blaze was the result of an electricity leakage next to her bed, given the pair were not cooking at the time. Another 4 residents suffered injuries and were brought to the hospital for treatment. Initial investigations by authorities indicated there were no suspicious circumstances behind the fire, with fire services personnel stressing that the building's fire alarm system was fully operational. Earlier today, police officers entered the unit where the blaze originated to collect evidence and conduct their investigation. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The fire-stricken Manyun building in Yau Ma Tei have been undergoing major renovation work since last year. Flames retardant mesh installed on the external scaffolding may well have helped prevent the blaze from spreading further. Industry representatives say the contractor had also implemented sufficient fire prevention measures. Manyun building previously underwent major renovation works in 2016. Last year, the building received at least 4 orders from the Buildings Department and Fire Services Department requiring further repair works. A hole could be seen in the scaffold mesh outside the unit where the fire erupted, while nearby sections of the mesh remained intact. This resident says the scaffold mesh was newly replaced because renovation works were suspended last December and resumed around March or April when the new mesh was put up. Following the deadly fire at Wanfo Court, the government ordered all buildings undergoing maintenance works across Hong Kong to replace scaffold coverings with flame-retardant mesh. The Hong Kong Construction Industry Employees General Union says several other factors also helped slow the spread of the fire. Chelsea Kidd of the union says bamboo scaffolding is not highly flammable. Another reason is that no construction materials were seen piled up on the scaffolding. He says during exterior renovation works, replacing mosaic tiles often produces a lot of paper scraps, which are highly flammable. Manyun building was built more than 60 years ago with an extremely high population density. In recent years, many flats there have been subdivided into even tinier units. The fire-ravaged flat this time had reportedly been split into 9 separate subdivided units. Yau Ma Tei District Councillor Chen Siu-tang says many residents have long been worried about the large number of subdivided flats and fire hazards. The original flat measures around 900 square feet. After subdivision and corridors are added, each unit is only about 80 square feet. Currently, the government is drafting legislation to regulate subdivided flats. Only units meeting official requirements will be eligible for registration as so-called basic housing units. Kowloon West lawmaker Vincent Chang suggests even if landlords are unable to complete renovations immediately, they should at least provide basic fire safety equipment. A district councillor says cracks had already appeared on the building's exterior walls several years ago, and signs of subsidence can be seen. The U.S. is pausing arms sales to Taiwan to ensure it has enough weapons for the Iran war. This according to the country's acting Navy Secretary Hong Tao. Tao confirmed this at a Senate hearing on Thursday, after President Donald Trump appeared non-committal about the sales after his visit to Beijing earlier. Tao said that in order to have the munitions needed for Operation Epic Fury, we're just making sure we have everything, but then the foreign military sales will continue when the administration deems necessary. The $14 billion package would have included air defense missiles and surface-to-air missiles, according to an earlier Reuters report. Chinese Foreign Ministry made clear on Thursday that Beijing firmly opposes U.S. arms sales to Taiwan and to implement consensus reached at the China-U.S. summit. U.S. President Donald Trump suggested Thursday that previous U.S. presidents have mulled intervening in Cuba for decades, but told reporters, "It looks like I'll be the one that does it." This as China's foreign ministry said it opposes external forces exerting pressure on Cuba under any pretext. Tracy Furness has more.
Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, U.S. President Donald Trump called Cuba a failed country, but added the U.S. will help them along.
Cuba, look, it's a failed country. Everybody knows it. They don't have electricity, they don't have money, they don't have really anything, they don't have food. And we're going to help them along, and we're going to help them because number one, I want to help them. I don't want to on a humanitarian basis, but we have the Cuban American population, much of it living in Miami and Florida. That's a great group of people, amazing group of people, industrious, they're great Americans. They've wanted this to happen. They want to go back to their country. They want to help their country. Other presidents have looked at this for 50, 60 years doing something, and it looks like I'll be the one that does it, so would be happy to do it.
This as U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Thursday that Cuba has always been a national security threat to the United States.
Here's what I can tell you. Cuba not only has weapons that they've acquired from Russia and China over the years, but they also host Russia and Chinese intelligence presence in their country, not far from where we're standing right now. So Cuba has always posed a national security threat to the United States. They, by the way, have been one of the leading sponsors of terrorism in the entire region.
Meanwhile, China's foreign ministry said they oppose external forces exerting pressure on Cuba. It said the U.S. should stop wielding a stick of sanctions and judicial measures against Cuba and stop resorting to threats of force at every turn, adding China firmly supports Cuba in safeguarding its national sovereignty and national dignity and opposes external interference. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
U.S. Senate Republicans abandoned plans to vote on funding for immigration enforcement on Thursday in a revolt against one of President Donald Trump's priorities, a $1.8 billion fund for victims of government weaponization, including those convicted of violent crimes during the Washington Capitol riot on January 6, 2021. That controversial fund and another $1 billion for building a White House ballroom were added at Trump's behest and became sticking points. Tracy Furness reports.
Reporters asked U.S. President Donald Trump at an Oval Office event whether he is losing control of Senate Republicans as they appear poised to abandon a proposal for $1 billion in security funding in favor of the White House complex and his ballroom project. Trump said he didn't know.
I don't know. I really don't know. I can tell you I only do what's right. I don't need money for the ballroom. You know, I'm making a gift of the ballroom. This is the biggest misreporting that I've ever seen. The ballroom is being built. It'll cost. It was going to be $200 million. I've doubled the size of it because we need it. We're on time, on budget. It's going beautifully. I have all the money I need. We're making a gift to the United States.
This, as Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said, Republicans are fleeing Washington after failing to advance the immigration enforcement bill.
So this afternoon, Republicans so divided, so dysfunctional, so disorganized, are fleeing Washington. Their majority can't melt down fast enough, not when Americans' financial situation is melting down every day. Republicans are in complete disarray. They're at each other's throats, and the American people are suffering for it. Republicans have tied themselves up in knots and torn each other to shreds over Trump's brazenly corrupt slush fund for his billionaire cronies and January 6th insurrectionists. They have soiled their reputation by fighting to fund Trump's billion-dollar ballroom at taxpayer expense. And all the while, Republicans haven't lifted a finger to lower Americans' costs.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
And still ahead, Greek protesters vent their anger over Israel's detention of Gaza activists. Frustrated Congolese crowd burned down Ebola treatment center. Top international customs official says global cooperation continues regardless of changing political tides. Welcome back. An activist from the Global Samud flotilla who was detained by Israel said there were at least 50 cases of sexual assaults on activists, as well as over 30 broken bones, broken clavicles, broken ribs by Israeli forces.
We know that on one of the prison boats, as people were being brought into the open space, they were held in groups of 2 or 3 with about 5 commandos, brutalizing them one by one as people were entered into that container. We know on just one of the boats in one of the sections there were at least 15 cases of sexual assaults that have been reported so far. There were over 30 broken bones, broken clavicles, broken ribs. We have people on their way to the hospital right now needing urgent care that was denied to them by the IOF.
Meanwhile, more than 1,000 people gathered in the streets of Athens on Thursday to protest against Israeli forces intercepting the Gaza protest flotilla. The protesters marched towards the Israeli embassy with some holding flares, although the demonstration remained peaceful. Israel's foreign ministry has called the flotilla a PR stunt at the service of Hamas. The U.S. and Iran are taking opposing stances over Tehran's uranium stockpile and controls over the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. President Donald Trump says the U.S. will eventually recover Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium, claiming we don't want it. We'll probably destroy it after we get it, but we're not going to let them get it. Trump also says he is against Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz. As we want it opened, we want it free. However, 2 senior Iranian sources told Reuters before Trump's comments that Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei has issued a directive that the Iranians should not be sent abroad. Iranian officials also restated on Thursday Tehran's claim to sovereignty over the strait. Protesters set fire to tents for Ebola patients after Congolese authorities refused to give them the dead body of a victim they wanted to bury themselves, a beloved local footballer suspected to have died in the ongoing outbreak. Meanwhile, the wife and 4 children of a U.S. citizen infected with the Ebola virus have been brought to Berlin's Charité Hospital. Danny Rao tells us more.
Protesters set fire to tents for Ebola patients after Congolese authorities refused to give them the dead body of a victim they wanted to bury themselves, a beloved local footballer suspected to have died in the ongoing outbreak. Police fired warning shots and tear gas to defuse the incident in Ituri province. It took place in the town of Rwampara, which has been hit hard by the latest Ebola outbreak caused by the Bundibugyo strain of Ebola, for which there is no approved vaccine or treatment. Bodies of Ebola victims are highly infectious after death, and unsafe burials in which family members handle the body without proper protective equipment are a leading driver of transmission. The treatment centre had only been holding the bodies of those suspected of dying of Ebola, and the main treatment centre remained inside Rwampara General Hospital. Despite the scene in the courtyard, healthcare workers continued to carry people suspected to be sick with Ebola into the hospital on stretchers. Health officials believe the outbreak started weeks ago and say they haven't identified the source. The outbreak has been declared a public health emergency of international concern by the World Health Organization, and the death toll has risen to more than 130, with around 600 suspected cases. Meanwhile, the wife and 4 children of a US citizen infected with the Ebola virus have been brought to Berlin's Charité hospital. They were admitted to the university hospital's special isolation ward, the US Federal Ministry of Health said overnight. This followed a request for assistance from US authorities. The father, a doctor, had contracted the virus in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. According to reports, his family members had also been there previously and had most recently been symptom-free and tested negative. Dan Orell, TV News.
Renowned Hong Kong film producer Raymond Wong Pak Ming has been found guilty of insider dealing and is set to be sentenced next month. The film industry veteran has been granted bail. Timothy Lee reports.
The 80-year-old Raymond Wong Pak Ming, chairman and controlling shareholder of Pegasus Entertainment Holdings Limited, was accompanied by his son at the Eastern Magistrates Courts earlier today. Incidents connected to the case took place between August 25th to October 10th in 2017, when Wong negotiated with a third party on the sale and purchase of Pegasus shares. At the time, he transferred a total of $2 million to his younger sister Jenny Wong and encouraged her to purchase Pegasus shares via WhatsApp. The younger Wong purchased $1.6 million worth of shares, earning a profit of $1.03 million. The film producer pleaded not guilty. During the hearing, the defense said the payments that Wong made to his sister were related to a younger brother's properties in the mainland. They added that the texts between the siblings on WhatsApp were a special way of communication between family members. But the magistrate called the explanation absurd and illogical, saying Wong was not a trustworthy witness and found the film producer guilty. During the mitigation plea, the defense said it received more than 20 letters from character witnesses praising Wong's help and charity, including a donation of $5 million to the mainland during the COVID pandemic. The defense also provided a mitigation letter from TVB Assistant General Manager Virginia Lockey-Ling, who spoke of Wong's contribution to the film industry over the years. The sentencing is set for the 9th of next month. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
China's upcoming Shenzhou 23 crewed space mission could mark 2 major milestones for Hong Kong: the possible inclusion of the city's first astronaut and the first Hong Kong-led scientific research project aboard the space station. The Shenzhou 23 spacecraft has already been transferred to the launch site at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Traditionally, the astronaut crew list is unveiled one day before launch. All eyes are now on whether Hong Kong's first astronaut will serve as a payload specialist this time, responsible for scientific experiments. Among experiments on board is the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology's space project, MUSICAL, or the Multi-Spectral Imaging Carbon Observatory. The instrument is capable of monitoring global greenhouse gases and carbon emissions with high precision. The HKUST team created the instrument in just 2 years. Meanwhile, researchers at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University are also preparing their own space experiment. The project will study how sand and gravel move under different gravity conditions aboard China's space station, helping future lunar and Mars missions improve landing safety. World Customs Organization's Secretary General Ian Saunders was in Hong Kong this week for the body's Asia-Pacific Regional Heads of Customs Administrations Conference. In an interview with TVB News, Saunders underscores Hong Kong's key role as a bridge in the global customs community. The World Customs Organization's Secretary General Ian Saunders has helmed the body since 2024. Speaking with TVB News in Hong Kong, Saunders says, regardless of shifting political ties, global cooperation continues to underpin the body's mission.
No matter what's happening politically in the environment or what's even happening economically in the environment, the expectation on customs is to ensure that the goods that are going to cross a border, whichever border that might be, that they do so efficiently, that they do so safely.
He adds that the WCO plays a critical role in leveling the playing field for its 187 members by coordinating joint law enforcement operations targeted at illegal timber, firearms, and synthetic narcotics through sharing best practices and global data.
In these focused environments, we're able to make a difference against transnational crime because unfortunately, the abuse of the trade is one side of transnational crime. It's how they move the items that they choose to move. It's how they collect their proceeds. And fortunately, wherever there's a border, there's customs able to intervene. Hong Kong is extremely important. As one of our 6 regional vice chairs within the WCO community, it has the responsibility for active communication with several of our members in a very diverse region to be a bridge between us at the WCO in Brussels and the members in the Asia-Pacific region.
On the growth of global e-commerce, the WCO says this high-volume format is easily exploited by criminals hiding small quantity contraband, forcing customs agencies to adapt staffing with more advanced tech applications in risk assessment strategies and data analytics. He also highlights another long-term pillar of the WCO, green customs. They include crackdowns on environmental crimes and maximizing logistical efficiency to trim truck and cargo wait times. Commissioner of Customs and Excise Chen Zitab will also lead a delegation to Belgium next month, where Hong Kong will formally secure the endorsement of his re-election as vice chair of the Asia-Pacific region of the World Customs Organization. Lee King-kei, Assistant Commissioner of Customs and Excise, who is also the head of the Secretariat Office of the World Customs Organization's Asia-Pacific Vice Chair, highlights Hong Kong's key role, especially with increased trading activities in the region.
Then we also see that the main economic growth engine now lies within the Asia-Pacific region. In particular, for the export, we have the export of commodities and goods from China, which are of a very, very wide variety. And we also hope to, through Hong Kong, we make better connections with the world. We can, so that every part of the world can economically thrive together.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.